What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. In this video, I want to talk about a $1,400 or $2,000 fourth stimulus check. I get questions on this pretty much every single day saying, Jimmy, when is the fourth stimulus check on the federal level coming out for people on low income, people on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, VA, RRB, everybody on Social Security, everybody on low income? When is the fourth stimulus check? Can you give us a date? Can you give us details on the federal level? This is because people are seeing in my videos saying like, hey, stimulus checks are coming out today. Stimulus checks are coming out this week. And some people get confused because maybe they don't watch the video all the way through, or um, they didn't watch, or they didn't see all the details. This is because there are stimulus checks coming out to millions of people in about 33 different states. Okay, and I'll show you some right here on the screen. These are for different states. Okay, so between the 33 different states, I don't know how many millions of people it is, but there's millions and millions of people that are getting stimulus checks, and some are actually going out this month. Okay, we'll talk about a fourth federal stimulus check here as well, but I'll show you this here right on the screen. For example, California's stimulus checks, this is actually their second state stimulus check in 2 years. They sent out stimulus checks last year to over 23 million people. They're sending out stimulus checks this year to over 23 million people. You can see right here the headline from CNBC. I just showed you a video from Governor Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, as California stimulus checks of up to $1,050 start to go out. Here's what you need to know. So they just started to send out the first payments of these actually yesterday, October 7th. So depending on what day you're watching this, if you're watching this as soon as it came out, these started to go out yesterday to 23 million people. It's going to take several days or weeks to actually send these out. If you're on snail mail, if you're from California, these are going out. It's $350 per person. If you have a family of 3 or more, it'll be $1,050, up to 23 million people in California. But California is not the only state getting these. Okay, as I said, there's about 33 different states. I actually have a headline here. This is from CNBC that says 17 states you could be getting an inflation relief check from the government. And there's actually a bunch of states that are still sending them out here in October. And if you've been watching my channel, you know that there's just a bunch of different states here that are still sending out checks, some that are still going out, some that have already gone out. I'll show you, like, for examples here. Colorado, by the end of September, most Coloradans will have received their one-time tax rebate check, stimulus check, whatever you want to call it, paid out as a mailed check totaling $750 per person, or $1,500 per joint filer or for a married couple. Again, this is for the state of Colorado. So it was $750 per person or $1,500 per married couple for the state of Colorado. State of Delaware has a $300 relief rebate. Each state kind of calls this a different program here, the Delaware Relief Rebate Program. This was $300 per person or $600 per married couple. Those have already gone out, and you should have received those already as well. Florida just sent out $450 stimulus checks to low-income earners that are participating in the TANF program for families caring for children that can qualify for these checks, as well as if they are part of the guardianship program. Florida also sent out $1,000 stimulus checks for first responders and teachers, actually 2 times around. But Florida actually has over $20 billion in surplus. So does Texas. So don't be surprised if they announce a massive state stimulus check or something along those lines, because they got a lot of money, especially with the hurricane that just came through there. They could easily do something like this, like a lot of these other states have done. Georgia actually did two of them here. In May, Governor Brian Kemp announced one-time tax refunds for residents with a tax liability from 2020 taxes, provided that they filed tax returns for both 2020 and 2021. Single tax filers qualified for $250 checks, head of households $375, and married couples filing jointly $500. Also in Georgia, they just sent out $350 relief checks to the lowest income people in Georgia who needed it the most with pandemic stimulus funds. They used $1.2 billion of COVID relief aid and sent these out to Georgians who benefit from Medicaid, subsidized child health insurance, food stamps, or cash welfare assistance. That went out to about 3 million people in Georgia. And I want to say, I'll get to a few other programs here in a minute, but let's talk about a federal, really, like I said, there's about 33 different states that have done programs like this. I literally can't cover them all in one video, let alone several. But if you've been watching my channel here on a daily basis, I literally cover this whenever new news comes out about different states, federal programs as well. There's a whole bunch of federal programs like this that you might not even know about. The student loan forgiveness is one of the big ones going on right now. $10,000 to $20,000 of federal student loan forgiveness. It's basically like a stimulus check for over 40 million Americans. It's basically wiping out $10,000 to $20,000 of their student loans. And for 20 million Americans, of that 40 million Americans, 43 million Americans, it's basically wiping out their student loans completely. So it's basically like saying, hey, here's a stimulus check, but we're just calling it student loan forgiveness for 43 million Americans. What about an actual stimulus check for a fourth stimulus check? Okay. Not state stimulus check, not student loan forgiveness. What about a stimulus check on the federal level? Well, there's a couple ways that can happen. One, Congress approves it. Two, the president does an executive order. The second way is a little bit of a gray area, but former President Donald Trump did kind of do this in the past. I'll just show you. I've talked about this before, but this is just going to kind of be a quick glance. Former President Donald Trump did do an executive order and sent out checks to millions of Americans with his executive order right before the 2020 election, and sent this out with money that was already approved by Congress with the disaster relief funds, and sent out billions of dollars to millions of Americans, and sent them out to unemployed Americans right before the 2020 election. Okay. Now, right now, again, Trump did this, and Biden could do this as well. You have to do this with money that is already approved by Congress. That's the key there. That's the key. And right now, there's at least $600 billion somewhere in that neighborhood. You'd have to, go to the CBO and then have to add it all up. But this is the last time we've seen that. There's at least $600 billion of stimulus money from stimulus package 1, 2 from former President Donald Trump, and 3 from Biden, if you add it all up, of unspent stimulus money. So you could do an executive order to reallocate that money and send it out to Americans. And I know it's a controversial idea. It was controversial when Trump did it, but Trump did it, and the Democrats didn't challenge it in a court of law, and it stuck, and that kind of sets the precedent. Whether or not Biden does it, or whether he does it before this election or after this election, or if he does it, or whatever they do with that money in the future, I'll keep you up to date on that. The other thing is, what will Congress do? Now, we don't have a lot of time before this election left. After this election, there's actually 2 months until this Congress leaves and the new Congress comes in. Okay. So everybody from the House of Representatives has to get reelected, every single person. Okay. And they actually stay there until January. Okay. So they don't just leave immediately after the election. It's not like the election comes and the very next day new people come in. They actually stay until January. Okay. So the Congress stays in there and they can still pass things until then. Okay. The other thing here is that only about a third of the Senate is up for reelection. And of them, it's 21 Republicans are up for reelection and 14 Democrats are up for reelection, if I recall correctly. I think that's correct. Okay. For the Republicans to take over the Senate, they have to take over 51 seats, where Democrats only need to take over 50 seats, because in a 50-50 tie, the Democrats retain control of the Senate, because a 50-50 tie, the tiebreaker goes to the Vice President of the United States, who is a Democrat. So for the Republicans to take over the Senate, they have to take 51 seats. Okay. So because it's an election year, we've actually seen a lot of moves being made. Seen the $10,000 to $20,000 of student loan forgiveness for over 40 million Americans. We've actually seen a lot of different things here in the news. If you've been watching my channel, I'll keep you up to date here on all of this stuff. And Biden's been trying to make a lot of campaign promises being done. The Democrats have been trying to make a lot of stuff done. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act here recently, which does lower the cost of insulin. It lowers the cost of Medicare premiums with the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs for deductibles. That will kick in here soon. And it lowers the cost of a lot of different things here as well. I know it's controversial. A lot of people are, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, which, that's totally up to you. But will we see a fourth stimulus check passed on the federal level? Well, that has not happened yet, but it definitely could. But the other thing you have to realize is that a lot of things are being passed that are sending money out to people in different ways, that it's not necessarily fourth stimulus check federal level. So you have to be aware of that. And that's why, if you've been watching my channel, you don't have to necessarily hear those words to get money in your pocket. For example, we just had a 12.5% SNAP raise, food stamp raise. A lot of states are actually raising the eligibility on that. So more people, for example, Pennsylvania just raised their eligibility by to 200% of the poverty level, making 420,000 people just in the state of Pennsylvania more eligible for that, and 12.5% raise on SNAP benefits. They also just made $8 billion of money available now for SNAP. We don't even know what's going to happen with that money yet. I'll keep you up to date here on that as well. And we're going to have the largest raise in Social Security probably in 40 years. That's going to be coming out here in a few days. I'll keep you up to date here on that as well. And we have all these different programs coming out here on the state and the federal level that just have different wording to it, like student loan forgiveness for 43 million Americans, SNAP raises for 43 million Americans, the largest Social Security raise in 40 years for 60 million Americans. And what the next program might be, whether it's fourth stimulus check or some other inflation relief check or tax rebate checks, property tax rebate checks, they're all coming up under different names. And I'll keep you up to date here on all these different things. So let me know your thoughts here in the comment section. Make sure you subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. Click the bell icon after you subscribe, because it's completely free to do so. And this way you won't miss out on new videos that come out here on a daily basis. Don't forget to hit the like button for us as well. And I'll link you to some other videos here that you can watch next to get some more information here. You can click here to see a list of a bunch of other states that are passing out checks here In fact, some are coming out here this month. And you can click here to see a video on up to $2,400 per year Social Security raises. Yeah, there's a bill in Congress right now for that as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.